Welcome back. All right, so we're going to talk about the Pittsburgh Penguins. Pittsburgh, a team that has been very up and down this year, and the power rankings show it. The highest they've been is fourth. The lowest they've been is 22nd. Currently, they're 21st. Now, their playoff odds are sitting at 57.5%. So they have a better than 50% chance of making the playoffs, but that's not really where Pittsburgh wants to be. They want to be one of the top teams in the East, and they want another shot at a Stanley Cup. Now they're 24-16-9 overall. Again, their odds are still above halfway, like above a 50% chance, but it does feel like Pittsburgh has a difficult road ahead. So they started the season 4-4-2. It was a slowish start, but then they were 10-7-3 after 20 games, 18-18-4 after 30 games, and it looked like things were going to go really well. They then went 3-5-2 to go to 21-13-6 through 40 games. Since then, they have been 3-3-3. So 24-16-9 the overall record, and there have been some struggles for the Pittsburgh Penguins. Their status to me is both hopeful and contender, and I'm saying hopeful because Buffalo's right there. Buffalo could absolutely end up knocking them out. This may end up being the fight towards the end of the season. It could be between Pittsburgh and Buffalo for that last playoff spot. Not wanting to rule out the Islanders either. The MVP for this team is Sid the Kid. Sidney Crosby is still one of the best players in the National Hockey League. The debate is always out there of whether or not he's still the best or how close to the best he is. But at any rate, Crosby's still one of the absolute best in the game. And I think we can agree he's one of the best, right? We don't agree on that. That's fine. It's all fine. So he's the MVP. He's also the top scorer. 24 goals, 36 assists, 60 points for Crosby. And he's been healthy, and that's a key thing, too, is he needs to stay healthy. Malkin, 19 goals, 31 assists, 50 points. He's been very good, too. He's been healthy as well. So that's your 1-2 spot down the middle. Both players being healthy, give them that chance. If something happened to the health of one or the other, it's going to hurt their chances of making the playoffs. Jake Gensel, 20 goals, 26 assists, 46 points for him. Raquel, 18 goals, 15 assists, 33 points. It's been a reawakening for Raquel's goal scoring, which we always knew was there. Through the darkest days in Anaheim, we still knew he had goal scoring ability. It was just he was either snake bit or just the self-confidence wasn't there or he didn't have the right line mates. At any rate, it's working really well for him in Pittsburgh. And there's Jason Zucker, 13 goals, 17 assists, 30 points. And he's been hot. He's been playing well. So for the Pittsburgh Penguins, it will be interesting to see how things go for them from here. Their tandem in net is a talking point as well, because you have Jari that's out, so DeSmith's become the starter by default. And DeSmith, while he's a good backup, I don't know how I would feel about him if something happened with Jari and he was hurt going into the playoffs. That was the storyline with Pittsburgh last year. Jari was hurt going into the playoffs. DeSmith gets hurt, and they're down to their number 3 goaltender. Pittsburgh doesn't want to find themselves in that position again, although the number 3 goaltender is a different one than last year. Not that there was anything wrong with how Louis Domingue played, but now it's Dustin Tokarski. Again, you don't want to end up going to him in the playoffs. Not that there's anything wrong with him, but considering how strong the East is, it would be optimal for them to have Tristan Jarry in the net. The funny thing being, the last time Jarry played in the playoffs, he had a tough time of it as well. Pittsburgh hasn't won a round since 2018. So this is a year where they kind of need to do it. They did keep Malkin and Letang around rather than let them go. So there won't be any kind of a retool or rebuild in Pittsburgh's near future. And yet they could still end up missing the playoffs. Now, I'm wearing my Bluger jersey because he's a pending UFA. I don't think Bluger's had as solid of a year this year as he had last year. I think injuries have hampered him as well. Heinen has been good, but again, he may end up going to market. Zucker, a really strong run going to the All-Star break, as I said. I like Zucker's game. You have Dumoulin, one of the more underrated defensive defensemen in the National Hockey League. And I think Dumoulin probably sticks around. I really think that as long as Crosby's in this lineup, they're going to do their best to keep as many of the veterans as possible. And then you get into the argument of, does that make them slower than other teams? Does that make them more predictable than other teams? We'll see. Jari, of course, being a pending UFA is an interesting one in that he's been injured a lot this year. His numbers have been good, but how much is that worth to them? Archibald, currently on LTIR, and so no idea if they bring him back. I think he's just on IR. At any rate, he's not playing. And Tokarski is, of course, the number 3, and with number 3s, you generally sign them for 1-year deals, maybe 2. But Tokarski's a decent option for number 3, but you don't want to end up having to go to him in the playoffs. Pittsburgh's one of those teams that they're always going to be in the conversation. They're always going to be a polarizing team because of Sidney Crosby. There are some that love Crosby and some that can't stand him. And so there are going to be those who want to see them win another Stanley Cup and those who want to see them out of the playoffs altogether. And either way that it goes, it's going to be interesting to watch these guys after the break and see how they do. So if you're a Penguins fan, are you optimistic that they're going to get things going after the All-Star break and they're going to, continue through the trade deadline and everything's going to be good and they have a shot? Or do you think there's changes that need to be made? Are there changes that need to be made behind the bench? And again, I'm not advocating for Mike Sullivan necessarily to go, but if they miss the playoffs, does that happen? And how much of that then would go to the general manager if the team were to miss the playoffs? So let me know your thoughts, where you see the Pittsburgh Penguins falling by the end of this season, or do you see them holding up the Stanley Cup? Let me know your thoughts. Hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. And hey, thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.